It was deep into the month of April, and while the girls of the corridor were scared of Bigfoot beating and forcing himself on them, at the very least, no one had been killed. But Bigfoot's style had just evolved. He had grown more confident. Now he had a grasp on law enforcement's capabilities, or perhaps willingness, to apprehend him, and either way, they were found wanted. The assaults weren't scratching that itch for him anymore, so he shifted into his full predatory potential. Without any helpful rhythm, pattern, or routine, he hunted for victims. It was impossible to predict when Bigfoot would prowl the corridor and gaze towards me. No one knew he was coming. Despite the paranoia, he swept through the corridor, which demanded that girls go out and earn. The families of the area were also curious over Bigfoot's presence because a number of the girls were so frightened to get on edge, and that was the business. But they were never as on edge as when the first girl's body was found on the 4th of April, 1975. Her body bore all the hallmarks of the four original girls who had been assaulted, said, obviously, one way times was no longer satisfied by the assaults. Now had strangled her, and throat crushed and deeply bruised by the nights would pass by, Bigfoot would cool down, but then suddenly his urge would flare back up with vengeance down there. Always. Investigators found themselves standing in front of body after body, strangled, stabbed, and dumped in abandoned houses, nude or women. Police ended up passing out leaflets with Bigfoot's description of the whole open for people calling tips. Authorities were receiving blood and tips as well. Most of them went to nowhere, but some of them to go on. Unfortunately, nothing was Bigfoot is about and as a consequence, more girls were turned into their cause of death being either strangulation, not having survived merciless beating, or stabbing that had been seen. It was always the same, and Bigfoot had shown something often considered untypical of a serial killer. Signs of grace for victims. Black and white women were being found dumped around Cass Corridor.
That was
but they were always between the ages of 16 and 22, almost as if he could somehow tell they were no older and no younger, or perhaps because he asked.
I just wanted to
As the seasons changed and the months passed by and 1975 was coming to a close, the community was starting to get frustrated with the police. Girls working the corridor claimed that the police didn't care because they didn't see prostitutes as people worth the trouble of saving from a deranged serial killer. The police disagreed and said they were handling the murders the same way as if the victims were affluent and well off. But community activists and organizations weren't buying it, and they held a rally outside of the police station where they showed the pamphlets authorities had handed out to the people. They pointed to the tip line and noted that it wasn't available at night, when Bigfoot was active. When January of 1976 came, however, a tall, muscular black man with large hands and feet was arrested while trying to rape a woman in River Rouge, just a 14-minute drive from Cass Corridor. He was eventually charged with rape and armed robbery, and that was when he became the prime suspect of the Bigfoot murders. The suspect in custody was discovered to be a 29-year-old man by the name of Carl Mayweather Jr., and he wasn't the grungy street criminal that may have been expected. Mayweather was himself affluent. He ran a successfful business and came from a wealthy family.
We're going to get a big spider boss coming up.
During questioning, and after investigators dug into his life, it was discovered that he raped at least 3 women, although it's believed that he may have been responsible for many more, crossing well into the double digits. When Mayweather's home was searched, numerous obscene Polaroid photos were found of Mayweather with unknown women. He also had dozens of pieces of women's jewelry, along with machete and a set of knives. And according to the report, nearly 700 pairs of used women's underwear. Everything was seeming to line up, but Mayweather wasn't owning up to being Bigfoot, despite fitting the description as far as the police were concerned. The further the police dug, however, the further away from Bigfoot Mayweather was getting, until it was discovered that Carl Mayweather Jr. was, in fact, not the Bigfoot killer. He had rock-solid alibis for a number of the murders, and the police's laboratory found Mayweather wasn't adding up. Then, while he was still in custody, another body was found in an abandoned house around 8 minutes away from Cass Corridor, left with the same hallmarks as Bigfoot's previous victims. Though not the killer they were looking for, Mayweather eventually pled guilty to the 3 rape and armed robbery charges of insanity. The judge accepted the insanity plea, and Mayweather was sentenced from 40 to 60 years. The sentence to be served in a mental health facility until he could be treated. Then he would serve out the remainder of his time in prison. All in all, it's believed around 8 women were killed by the one known as Bigfoot. Some sources claim different numbers, but it's possible that the actual number is higher than anyone knows. As for the victims, not even they have been entirely identified. Only a few names were ever released, while others were never found out by anyone, and anyone who cared for them outside of that life in the corridor, they wouldn't have known what had happened to them. The Bigfoot killer has never been identified. Whether it was due to limitations in investigation at the time, or perhaps the police weren't too overly concerned with sex workers turning up dead, or a combination of a few factors, the case went cold. And like the victim's screams at the crushing hands of their peril, the hopes of catching this killer have been all but lost to obscurity. Thank you for watching, and thank you to Lightning Link Casino for helping to make this episode possible. You can check them out using the link in the description below. And I'll see you next time. It was a rainy day in March of 1972 when 8-year-old Douglas Owens was running errands. He would never make it back from this outing. That day, his body would be found on a rooftop just 2 blocks from his home in the neighborhood of Harlem in New York City. The young boy had been stabbed 38 times. His shoes were missing and the wounds were apparent over his neck, chest, and back. Most disturbingly, his genitals had been slashed so viciously that they were attached to his body by but a single bloody flap of skin. When it comes to killers, those who target children are considered the most evil, even by fellow criminals. However, when it comes to the crimes of this particular murderer, they are beyond abhorrent. They call him Charlie Chopoff, a crude pseudonym based on the modus operandi of his killings, and it's the name the killer still officially goes by, as to this day he has remained unidentified and the case unsolved. After so long, is there any hope of that changing? Or perhaps is the killer closer than many might think? Let's open the serial killer file. This episode of Seriously Strange is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. This ain't your mama's Raid, okay, people? It's the mobile fantasy RPG with stunning graphics, insane champions, and tons of enemies and epic boss battles to cut through in so many different and satisfying ways. Maybe you heard of it. And by going to the link in the description below, you can join in on the epicness. One of the coolest parts about Raid is the factions, where you can get killer champs to fight in your ranks. Each faction offers something different. Some have more human-type champs, while others have horrifying beasts from your childhood nightmares. And they're being updated all the time. The newest are the Shadowkin. Take a look at these straight thuggin' badasses, if you will. They've got a real feudal Japan vibe going on, which I love. Ninja, samurai, morbidly obese, scary guys. Yeah. They've got what you need. Like other factions, they've got their own lore you can check. So if you're a nerd like me, well, you better get those pantyhose tight and then go through the psychiatrist because it's just so tapped in the head. God. Hotatsu is my favorite champ right now. I mean, look at this guy. Mother of God, what a face. What a... delicious. And Raid is always updating to make your experience even better. They've added 11 new champs, 200 brand new missions with an exclusive legendary champ as a reward, and 5 tough new levels to almost every dungeon in the game. And they did all of that in just 1 month. That's how fast they work. It's been 10 years and I'm still building the one dungeon in my basement. I need some of their work ethic. So jump on into the badassery that is Raid Shadow Legends by going to the link in the description below now. When enough of you wicked people use my sponsors, they come back for more business, and that means more content. So thanks in advance, and thanks for listening. Barely a month after the first victim was found, another African-American boy, only 2 years older than Douglas Owens, also went missing on a dreary and day in Harlem. Man, Michael approached the young boy and offered him to come with him. They left together and went to the rooftop of a nearby apartment building. While there, the man brutally assaulted the boy. The child had his shoes taken and then was stabbed, gutted, and had his genitals removed by the attacker. The perpetrator took the genitals with him and left his victim for dead in one of the apartments. Later, he recovered the missing genitals in a nearby park. Had been playing with them. Unexpectedly, the child survived the assault. Allowed them to develop a officials believe the suspect was the Spanish Italian. He was thin, walking with a limp as well, had poor hygiene and foul. Authorities developed a sketch of the victim's distress. This would not be the killer would soon strike again. Wendell Hubbard was just 9 years old and playing in a yard near his home in October. Promptly alerted authorities of a missing son. It would only be a few hours later that the boy's body would be discovered on the rooftop of his own apartment building by 3 boys who had been playing on the premises. Mary Hubbard identified her son. The autopsy would reveal that Wendell had been sodomized and stabbed 17 times in the abdomen and chest. Again, regardless of the brutality of the suspected that Hubbard ran into the killer on his way back inside the apartment, Residents denied having seen or heard. Once again, authorities were left with no leads. Despite the similarities in the cases, police failed to connect the death. Investigators reported that it was that there was a between. March 6th, 1970, Ortiz was sent to fetch some milk and bread from the store with his mother. When he didn't return home, the 10-year-old's mother became convinced and contacted the police to report him missing. A search was conducted, and it wouldn't be until the next day when a woman taking out the trash discovered his body in a stairwell. He had been stabbed repeatedly in the back, neck, and chest. As well, the victim's genitals were mutilated and missing, clearly having been taken once again by the killer. In this instance, witnesses had seen the boy's abductor and were able to provide the police a description of the perpetrator. They described the man as slender with a dark complexion, possibly Hispanic, likely 30. While no one was described as having skin with a 40 still no results. Community public made a video warning other children to stay away from strangers. Local children began referring to the murderer as Charlie Chopoff and the name. A task force was developed to track down the suspect. They opened interviewed over 150 suspects and speaking to neighbors, police were able to locate someone they believed. 2 days before Lewis' murder, offering a free bicycle in exchange for help. He told the stranger he would need to ask permission and said he would meet the man again the next day. The next day, the mother arrived at the arranged meeting place and told the man to stay away from his son or she'd contact the authorities. The next day, when a woman walking her dog on August 16th, the victim, who was identified as 8-year-old Stephen Cropper, was found posed in a sexually suggestive position. His shirt had been pulled up and his pants were pulled down. However, unlike the other victims, he had not been stabbed, and Stephen's genitals were intact. Stephen had been repeatedly slashed with a razor blade, and the murder weapon was found below his body. As well, there was no evidence of a sexual assault. Stephen's parents had not been reported as missing, as he had been with them just an hour before the body was discovered. The Cropper family lived just blocks away and were shown their son's photo that Stephen's shoes had been removed and placed near his body. As well, 2 days after the girl's murder, reporters were interviewing neighbors, and some of them claimed that they had seen a man in the area who resembled a composite sketch talking to local boys. The neighbors would later report to the authorities that the man was wearing a white short, dark, despite the other Charlie murder, police concluded that he must be the victim. They reasoned that it was too coincidental for similar victims both and therefore Stephen Cropper was the last victim. Residents of East Harlem were furious with the lack of results in the case. This man was sought for killing. It appeared that the authorities were no way catching the culprit. Investigators began pursuing the case that seemed to be promising. On August 1st, an employee at the Health Service Center contacted the police and reported that a man in the office resembled the sketch. When officers arrived at the facility, the man was still there. Despite having no reason for suspicion other than his resemblance to the sketch, they brought him in for questioning. The suspect's name, Gonzalez, to the press, and when news broke that he had been apprehended, a mob formed around the police station. Unfortunately, when Gonzalez had been cleared of any involvement in the case, protesters refused to disperse. Protesters climbed the barricade to police cars. It was the wild west that Gonzalez be released to them. Police decided they would have to sneak Gonzalez out of the station, disguised as police. Dressed up in arms and civilian clothing and had him walk outside, escorted by other officers. The decoy covered his face and played his role as a distraction. The crowd wasn't fooled by this deception and continued to chase Gonzalez. Traffic blocked off Despite all, Gonzalez managed to make his escape. Another suspect in the case was Olivo was charged by his boy. Managed to get away and bring his father. Olivo was discovered hiding in some bushes in the park and was arrested. He fit the suspect's profile. He had an olive skin tone and walked with a limp. However, the police found that his alibis were solid at the time of the murders, and he was dismissed as a suspect. With the murderer still on the loose, the community remained on high alert.
Way more armor.
One man who resembled the composite sketch was even chased out of a neighborhood and into a river. Despite the collective effort, the target remained uncaught. Separated, she had a child with an African American, and they were both born. This happened naturally when the couple was despite not being his own child. Soto tried to raise the boy as his son. But as the boy's 8th birthday rolled around, things began to change. Soto's behavior grew increasingly erratic, and his mental state he was hospitalized multiple times for uncontrollable violence and had been arrested on several occasions for burglary and narcotics possession. He was committed to Manhattan State Hospital in 1969 and 1970, known as a delinquent visitor to other In 1973, Soto was apprehended during the attempted abduction of a young Puerto Rican boy. According to a retired NYPD homicide detective, Soto was walking along holding the child over his head, all while the boy screamed. Once in custody, police were interested in Erno's connection to the Charlie Charlock murders. An anonymous phone tip received by police on March 23rd pointed to Soto as a suspect in the murder of Douglas Owens, but it was not pursued. The police found a witness who claimed that he had seen Soto with Stephen Cropper on the day of his murder. The surviving victim was also shown in blind, including Soto, but was not able to identify him. He did say that Soto was similar to his brother, but not. In addition, Soto had relatives living in areas away from the facility unnoticed. Additionally, the main exit from the mental hospital was near where some of the boys' bodies were found. During interrogation, Soto confessed that he stalked young black boys in the area and admitted to killing Stephen Crocker. He reportedly said that he wanted to make little boys in while certain officials police were confident they had. Erno Soto was charged with the murder of Stephen Crocker. Unfortunately, due to his status, he was ruled too unstable to stand trial. He was committed to criminally insane in 1970. That's where he remained. As a convicted criminal, the Charlie Chaplin brothers are convicted. However, incarceration of their main suspect, the murders and mutilation. Serial killers are capable of horrifying acts deep within the darkest of humanity's psyche. Murders and mutilation perpetrated by Charlie Chopoff are easily some of the most extreme. We can wrap ourselves in the safe thought that the police caught the deranged individual, but without a conviction, can we say that it was the work of an unstable man like Soto? Can we say that he wouldn't have gotten caught earlier due to his erratic behavior? What if Soto had followed for time, seeking attention, It's a known fact that police often receive false confessions to even the most heinous crimes from individuals who are less than that be even more plausible for Soto. What of the difference in the death of Stephen Crocker, the only killing that was tentatively linked to Soto? Crocker hadn't been stabbed, sexually assaulted, and all of his body parts were intact, which was a far cry from Charlie Chopoff's usual MO. It's also a known fact that some serial killers do stop killing on their own. For whatever reason it may be, they don't kill again. Is Charlie Chopoff safely tucked away in a mental institution, or was East Harlem's boogeyman free to roam? It's been almost 50 years since the crimes were committed, and the answers are as unknown as this case is unsolved. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to check out Raid by using the links in the description below, because the more of you do, the more they'll help to sponsor more content, and that means more content. Raid has always been a great supporter of my content. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel now and turn on notifications, because you won't want to miss what's next. And I'll see you next time. This is part 2, and the conclusion of the episode of Charles Albright. If you have not yet seen part 1, it's linked in the description.
I just couldn't believe it. You know, he was a real nice person. You know, bring us souvenirs back when he went to vacation, watched our house.
For 3 years, Mara Paramo and her family have lived next door to 57-year-old Charles Albright. They were shocked Friday when police came to the home and arrested the repairman for attempting to kill a prostitute last December. Police say that prostitute got away and talked, and now neighbors are even more surprised to learn that police have charged Albright with shooting to death, then mutilating the faces of 2 other prostitutes. Police say the man they arrested here, Charles Albright, was a well-known customer of prostitutes, and that information supplied by prostitutes was instrumental in filing the murder charges. Neighbors hear with relief, however, that police know of no other deaths beyond these 3 that may be linked to a suspect that some had called a serial killer.
Unbelievable.
Police were familiar with Susan.
What are those things here?
We had a bargain, and you will honor it, Bantam!
Just outside the city limits of Dallas, Texas. She had been shot in the head, chest, and stomach. Detective Larry Oliver accompanied the body.
Otherworldly beings here. Things must be getting worse. This is bad. We must complete our mission.
What was more frightening still was that this wasn't the first eyeless body discovered along the same stretch of road. In this episode, the extent of a corrupt mind episode, I explained how Wicked Clothes was invested in my channel's success, more than a typical sponsor. For more content, showed their power, and bought so many badass threads they just had to stick around for longer. You may notice this video is here much sooner than I would usually upload it. That's thanks to Wicked Clothes and, of course, so many of you visited them, bought from them, shared them, told them how badly you wanted us to be together forever. It's damn romantic. And with Wicked Clothes, you're bringing me my content to life. By the way, Wicked Clothes provides a particularly but I'm not telling you. Off your entire order. By doing that, you're supporting an incredible clothing brand run by legendary people, as well as helping me bring you more content. Wicked Clothes puts their money where their mouth is, which is right inside of me. Wait, that sounded kind of... Listen, you get the point. I was even able to bring on another editor to my team to help get this fresh content out more regularly. This is Scott. Say hi, Scott.
I'm so hungry. I miss my family.
Shut up. Shut up, Scott. Get back to work. And buy more Wicked Clothes. We have content to make.
I'm always up for Wicked Clothes. I could buy some more Wicked Clothes at wickedclothes.com/shop. Who needs a family or food when you have Wicked Clothes?
That's right, Scott. Now get back to work or you're getting the daddy dance tonight.
Okay.
So if you want to keep the content coming, changing, evolving, being powered up, keep showing that sweet, syrupy support for Wicked Clothes by purchasing some of their sick, twisted, and fun clothes using my link or code below. In the comment below, in the comment section below, that's where the comments go, telling Wicked Clothes about how psyched you are that we're working together and really making this happen. Also, like in part 1 of this episode, if you make even one purchase from Wicked Clothes using my link / code below, after the release of this video, send a screenshot of proof of purchase to seriouslystrangebiz@gmail.com and I'll email 10 of you and let you choose one item for free from my own merch shop. Thanks again to Wicked Clothes and all of you. And now, on to the episode. Flyers were posted urging the women to stay off the street. They once had avoided the cops, but now instead they rushed to the officers to tell them about their suspicious jobs. Despite the leads they were given, the case didn't seem to be going anywhere. Then there were the crimes themselves, the nearly surgical precision in which the victim's eyes were removed. Was not there were no visible cuts or bruises near the to indicate the mutilation had occurred at all. The crimes had to be done by knowledge of anatomy. Old women. These murders were cold. The killer was sure that they would not survive this attack. He had been careful as no valuable evidence was found at the scene and no one saw him on the street. Without any move forward, the case is not. They would need something or someone to track down someone.
I'm going to be talking with you about what the Bible says about heaven, what you always wanted to know about heaven. Probably the most misunderstood doctrine in the Scripture, and unfortunately misunderstood by a lot of God's people. We get caught up in the myths that surround heaven. And so we're going to talk about this, and it seems to me very appropriate because the Bible tells us we're going to spend eternity there. And it would make sense, would it not, to
On the morning of December 13th, 1990, only a few hours after Mary Pratt's body had been found, officers John Matthews
Still a long way to go.
and Smith Boulevard, a street known for burglary, bar theft, shoplifting, and prostitution.
Disgusting
They
things.
headed
Spiders
towards
here
the
and
Star
there.
Hotel,
When
a seedy dive catering primarily to sex workers. The women there, most of them drug addicts, would have sex in a customer's car in a nearby alley or use a room shared with other prostitutes. Once they had money, it was spent on their drug of choice. After a quick hit, they would be out on the street
it's
again.
the first thing they had.
None of
They
this
say
fazed
because the
Smith or Matthews anymore. However, this morning when they pulled up, one thing did catch their attention. A woman with a nasty cut across her forehead and what appeared to be a thin knife cut across the front of her neck. Veronica Rodriguez was in her mid-20s and already a seasoned sex worker. She was bold enough to continue to flag down tricks even when she knew police were watching. She had been arrested multiple times for prostitution, once buying 9 months pregnant. Known as a notorious liar to Matthews and Smith, they heard many of her pity stories in the past. She would use the lies to garner sympathy so the officers would leave her alone. On this morning, she pleaded, saying, "Don't arrest me. I almost got killed." Rodriguez told the officers that she had been picked up by
Oh, here we go. Spider Boss. Alright, let's see what he's about.
another woman to have a threesome. She went on to say that the man had been violent and hit her in the head with a gun, knocking her out. Rodriguez to see the man shoot the other woman. Frightened, she fled as fast as she could, and when arriving at a nearby house, it just so happened to be occupied by someone she knew. The officers considered her story to be just another lie. While she was clearly evil, it wasn't out of the ordinary. The streets to the assault. Warren Street. Two days later, on an afternoon drive past the Star Motel, Matthews and Smith saw Rodriguez again. She was sitting with a middle-aged white man in a cab. They pulled up and asked the driver for his license. Resident of the
Got it. We did it. It's not that bad.
It can definitely be stressful. The price of a stock fluctuates almost daily and can be dependent on lots of factors beyond a company's control, like a competitor releasing a new product, negative national news, or the performance of the overall economy. Prices are also driven by supply and demand. When there are more interested buyers and fewer shares available, the price of that stock typically increases, and vice versa. Long term, though, the value of the company's shares tends to be based on its actual success.
Are all stocks the same?
Stocks? Are you even listening?
Well, some stocks are considered higher risk than others. For example, investing in smaller companies and startups could give very high returns, but there's potentially lots of room for growth leading to appreciation of its stock price. These stocks are higher risk because it could take time to appreciate or even depreciate depending on struggles to grow. On the other hand, investors in more well-established companies, often called value stocks. Investing in these companies is usually less risky, but there's also a in the place of price appreciation, these companies sometimes pay shareholders dividends. Dividends are a portion of company's net profits, periodically paid to shareholders based on how many shares they hold, and these can be paid out in various forms: cash, discounts, or even shares. To balance the risk, investors often diversify their investment portfolio. This means they keep their stocks in different markets. In other words, they don't put all of their eggs in one basket. Right. Stocks at a stock exchange. There are exchanges all over the world. Two of the largest public stock exchanges are located in the United States: the New York Stock Exchange, NYSE, and the Nasdaq. And most investors typically use an intermediary, like a professional stockbroker, or many of the do-it-yourself online platforms available today. Now that you know a bit about how stocks work, consider the following. 1. Research before investing. Don't just take advice from your uncle's friend's dog walker, or follow the latest trend and hype. Take advantage of the many educational resources available online that are often for free. Determine your risk tolerance. Do you want to invest long-term or short-term? Are you looking for a higher risk price appreciation? And dividend return. Considerations will influence what sort of stock choices you make. 3. Stay calm. Investing in stocks can lead to huge swings of emotions. Great highs, low lows. And we all know that acting on pure emotion can result in some bad choices. So don't panic. Step 1 and keep research. The more you understand the way the stock market moves, the less likely you are to make irrational decisions. Buying and selling stocks is an important part of a strong and growing economy. Companies get the capital they need to grow, and investors get to make a profit on the growth of that company, especially for the future of humanity. Remember, stocks are not the right investment for everyone, so make sure to study your different options before investing. Watch more of Trader UK Stock Exchange. And don't forget to subscribe.
Death of a street-hardened sex worker like Susan Peterson, many women were scared. However, not all groups were worried. African American prostitutes saw the killings as an opportunity for them to get more business. They felt secure that the killer was only hunting Caucasian women. For Shirley Williams, this became fatal. Was made at the Avalon Motel during the last wearing jeans. a 20-year-old veteran of the streets, sex worker Brenda White, was tough and capable of getting herself out of jail. She told the police that her story was trying to kill her. The officers pulled up alongside her. Described her attack with sullen.
thing had a lot of health.
based solely on
It wasn't hard, it just had a lot of health.
hair evidence. Albright's
If you don't have, I'm a two-hand build too, man.
convinced the
A
jury
dual wielder would have to hit that thing
against
like a
Albright
million
was
times.
flimsy at best. He attempted to throw suspicion on Axton Schindler, who just happened to skip town.
Oh no, next phase. I can't get this other phase. Fucking got Albright.
Khazan! No!
Recognized Albright. As well, none of the hairs found on the victims could be linked to Schindler at all. On December 18th,
Not necessary, General.
the jury returned. The verdict
It's
found
been my dream
that
to fight
Charles
side by side
Albright
with the great General
was
Khazan.
guilty, and he was given a life sentence for the murder of Shirley Williams.
Everyone else thinks I'm a traitor.
Today, Albright remains confined in a psychiatric hospital. He continues to insist
It doesn't matter what
he
they
never
think.
killed anyone and has certainly never done anything as heinous as
You're a savior,
hold
not a
human
traitor.
eyeball. Friends of Charles still firmly believe he couldn't have committed the crimes. Others think Axton Schindler was the real killer, and
The
that he
blacksmith
got
we
away
rescued from the cave is
with
here.
murder.
He
No
was
one
very
has
insistent
ever
on
been
repaying his
convicted
debt.
in the deaths of Mary Lou
He's downstairs
Pratt
if you want to
or
meet him.
Susan
And now we can head straight to Polemian.
The eyes of all three victims have never been recovered. These factors make Albright a unique addition to the serial killer files. But nevertheless, hallmarks are there. Early childhood trauma